Thanks again, Trevor, for hopping on here. Um, I'm gonna just kind of open things up. I mean, our intent was to talk about some of these new saddle classes that Trevor released here last or just in June, where we did that horn cover. And when I say we, I mean Trevor. I filmed it, but and then
It was we.
the inlaid swell and just and if you have questions about his antiquing, but really any other classes that he's taught that you have questions about. He's an incredibly talented saddle maker. He's made a few, from what I can tell. Three, or
Maybe
that's how.
four. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe four. I don't know.
I kind of want to start with questions because I really like for you people who take the time to come on these calls. I'd like you to get as much time with the instructor as you can. But from there, we can just kind of discuss a couple ideas from those classes if there aren't any questions right off the top of the bat.
Yeah, I got a quick question. Trevor, I've really enjoyed your classes. You're, of course, very talented, but the way you present is fantastic. It's a really easy way to learn. So appreciate what you've done on there. Um, would you talk a little bit about what are some of your secrets? So the part I struggle with on building saddles is putting the seats in. Always have. And
Okay.
could you talk a little bit about some of your thoughts on maybe ways to improve that or get a better fit? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that you want to make sure is just right on the money is your ear cuts. Um, and there's a measuring process. I'm not sure if I can show it on camera. Like, I'm not sure if I could, if I
Well,
had another camera person, I could
it,
show it. But as far as making sure your ear cuts are perfect first, and then I start from the front right at the handhole and I compress that leather in about an inch at a time, making sure that everything's kind of compressing. You don't want anything to roll out in the seat, but if you compress just a little bit at a time and don't just try to go to tackling that giant bubble that there is, just do a little bit at a time, get your bouncer, tap in. You don't want to like beat the thing hard and make marks or anything, but if you just compress just an inch at a time, that is the way that I generally do it. And I mean, if you're working with Herman Oak, there's a really good chance that you're going to have a piece of leather that just doesn't want to compress. And if that's the case, I'll take the seat and I'll fold it in half at the middle, and I'll fold like the front half to the back, and I will like massage that around and then lay it back down flat and then start my compressions again. Um, and that's a way that I've found that you can kind of get those bubbles to relax a little bit. Cause I mean, that leather can get so stinking hard by the time you've compressed all that into it. Um, but yeah, if you just focus on little tiny bits at a time, it should it should compress easier that way. Like I said, start at the front. I know some people start at the back, but I like that bubble to push back and back and back and back to where it then just flops into the dish of the cannel rather than fighting it from the dish and then having an excess of leather that you're running forward. I'd like to run all that back into the dish.
Thank
and
you.
Another part of it that um, it's the scariest part of the whole seat, honestly, is getting right where your handhole comes in. Uh, Getting that as close as you can to where it's actually going to sit could help because the higher up that handhole is to the horn and up onto the swell, the more that leather's trying to, like, it needs to separate, it needs to break to be able to go around the swell. So if you can get that handhole cut back a little bit further, like almost to the exact point where it's going to be sitting, then that could be another thing that could help you with getting the seat to lay down where you want it to right from the start. and make sure that thing's cased. I find if the seat has too much water in it, if it's just like a noodle, I don't feel like it does the same things. If there's not actually leather for the or room for that leather to compress into itself, if it's all just full of water, I don't feel like it compresses quite the same where it's where it's cut right out of the butt, right? If it's like up in the belly, armpit area, I feel like no matter what, that leather just compresses. But I feel like you can get the seat too wet to where it just is a nightmare to try to compress because it'll try to run out and do all sorts of stuff rather than actually compress because there's no more room in the leather.
If you run into something like that, Trevor, is that something where you could just leave it alone, let it dry out just a little bit, or you're committed when you're
I'd for sure let it dry.
can you just
Um
leave it, just hold it, just leave it be,
I'd
right?
honestly
Give it a
put it in a
massage.
I'd put it in a plastic bag for
Okay, so
an
you're taking
hour.
it back off. Okay.
Yeah, I'd take it off. I'd put it in a plastic bag and just leave the bag open so that it has some sort of drying ability. And I'd check it like every hour. And once it feels like malleable, like clay, and like if you move it and it stays into where you moved it, great. But if you like try to compress it and it just instantly springs out, like it's not gonna work very well. But yeah, you can for sure just dry it out and uh, get it to where it feels like clay rather than a rubber band.
I guess going back to the classes, is there a particular one you want to start with, Trevor? Maybe talking through some of the finer points. I know it's been a while since we've shot it, but I guess is there a step in any of those three classes that really stands out to you as something that might be a challenge to people, or that
So one thing, a question that I've had like a million people ask me is like, why do you use the lacquer? Why don't you use pro resist? Why don't you use this or that? Or like, why do you use instrument lacquer? Um, and the answer for me is simple and not so simple. Part of the chemical makeup of that instrument lacquer means that it's not going to be affected by any other thing that I put on there. It can affect other things, but that's why I do that instrument lacquer first. So like the next steps that I'm doing aren't affected by the lacquer. So like if I was gonna paint something, I'd paint it after I lacquered it, um, and use a paint that's gonna naturally resist the antique. Um, but everybody wonders that, and that's the one thing that I really like about the lacquer is once it's dried and once it's really into the leather, like there's nothing that affects it really. It
so you
just
don't
kind
have
of is what
issues
it
of
is.
cracking or
No, it's not put on nearly as heavy as some people may think. It's put on so light that it's like it just kind of barely glazes the pores of the leather. Like you're still coating the entire thing, but it's not like pro resist that you have to like wait 10 minutes for the thing to dry or something before you do your additional coats of antique paste or whatever it may be you're putting on it. Um, so yeah, that's been a big question of like, why do you do that? Mainly that reason. And one of the best saddle makers in the industry told me to use instrument lacquer, and that's another reason that I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out why he likes this so much, and that's one of the reasons that I have found why it works so well because nothing else affects it. Really solid base coat.
well, that's important. You don't you want it to seal
Yeah,
if
you want
that's
it to
what you're
do the
going for.
things.
Okay.
Well, and time is of the essence too. Like I don't know, like a project shouldn't be like a huge burden on you to like, oh man, like this customer needs it, and they're asking for it today, and I can't do it because I need 30 hours to do my antiquing process. And it's like, well, this doesn't take that long. Like I could antique a piece in, I don't know, I can probably do it in 10, 15 minutes, like antique a whole piece and it works well. One thing that I will say though, we have run into in the past is it'll kind of like if your leather's not completely dry, it'll get like this weird opaquey, like it almost looks like
It'll get
dust.
cloudy.
It
It'll
looks
get
like dust that sits into the detail work, and we couldn't figure out why on earth it was getting that dusty look.
cloudy.
And the other day I did one. I haven't had a problem with it for a really long time, but the other day I did a project that I was really rushing through, and I for sure antiqued it when it was wet. And the next day, sure enough, there was that weird opaquey dust inside the tooling, and I was like, ah, wet leather does this. Because I did everything the same, but yeah, don't antique when the leather's wet, like ever. Unless you like the, I mean, I'm sure that some barrel racer or some hipster would love the dusty look.
Okay. I
That's the only word I can think of. It's not referring to Dusty Smith in any way. So,
Well, I was gonna say that's the look I give it.
right, you give everything the dusty look.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I remember doing the notebook class. I was sitting there following along with Chuck, and he's telling you to put the acrylic on, and I'm slathering it on because I had my kids there and they're running around. I'm screaming out. Anyway, the next thing out of his mouth is "Don't slather it on."
Yep,
So
wrecked.
it just had a different look. It was
Yep,
just a different look, but
yep.
not
And
quite as
that's another thing that I've actually been thinking about a lot coming up to this event. It's mostly just been on that antiquing class that's really been on my mind is not everybody has the same taste. No, not everybody's like, oh, I want mine to look like this. Some people, some people like a more aggressive looking antique that it's just black and just caked on the inside. And there's a maker that I have an enormous amount of respect for, and he does amazing work. But his antiquing style to me is crazy because he just basically leaves the paste in everything. There's no sheepskin to clean anything up. It's just like as heavy as he can get that antiquing paste in there. Great. Barely wipe the top with a paper towel. His tooling's beautiful. His antiquing work is beautiful, but it's just not my style to do. So that's another thing that I've thought about coming into this is really not everybody's the same. Not everybody's styles are the same. And there's definitely different ways to achieve different looks. And yeah.
well. And I kind of wonder what that with time. What does that look like anyway? Like the antique, does it just last forever, or do you see stuff a couple of years later and it's been worn in? Do you
I've
notice
only
that?
I've only seen uh fresh
Fresh or
work that he's
antique?
done. Yeah, I've only
Oh
seen.
no, I'm talking about just in general when somebody's antiquing something. It seems more like a presentation thing than
Oh, it still looks beautiful. There's
longevity.
a
Okay.
there's a saddle back there that came in for like a clean and oil, and it's quite a few years old, and it's one that we had antiqued, and it's still
Okay.
looking sharp because that lacquer process really preserves that original look,
Okay, because
and it just
do
looks
you
sharp.
lacquer, remind me the because you lacquer back over it after you've sealed it.
I use tan coat after I've sealed.
Okay.
So I go lacquer, antique, tan coat. Well, technically, oil your project first. If you're going to oil it, then lacquer, antique, tan coat, and let
Oh,
your oil set up. Nobody wants to have non-setup oil. Let it even out.
if you've got any questions for Trevor, please chime in. I'm gonna go through some of his classes just a little bit further here, but certainly if something pops in your head, please jump out. We have a small group here, so I think we can be pretty informal here. And I want to make sure you're getting what you guys need out of this.
Trevor, I got a random question for you. When you
Okay.
were doing the buck and rolls and stuffing them with sheepskin, you had a bag of just straight wool sheepskin.
Yeah.
Where are you sourcing that from?
We have so much wool left over from the saddles we make that I don't know. It takes like two saddles that you make and just shaving off all of the hair off of the hides.
Gotcha.
And you can fill up if if you're building a few saddles, you could fill up a bag so stinking fast. But it does actually take a ton of wool to fill those up.
I just wondered if you're buying those commercially or if it was remnants from what you're doing, but that answers my questions. Thanks.
Yep, just remnants.
I do remember we thought you were going to be able to put that whole bag in those bucking rolls, and it was much less than you told the student.
I was hoping I'd get it. Sometimes you just get denser wool too. Like there's times that I'll like do all my trim work on the skirt for the wool side of things anyways. And it just seems like I have just a mountain of wool. Like, how did I get all this? Like there's other times that it's just a couple of scrap pieces. It's like, I don't know, sheep have different hair than other sheep, I guess. It's just like people have different, some people have nappy hair, some people have nice and soft hair. Sheep are the same.
I guess let's talk a little bit about that inlaid swell because that's a really neat finish, right? For
Yeah. Yeah.
how, I guess, how is that different than how it's maybe normally done? Or because I remember you were being funny about sharing your secrets of doing that. Um,
So, part of the reason that I'm like a little bit leery to like instruct somebody on how to do an inlaid swell is it really is a gigantic pain in the butt, and leather has a mind of its own. And by the time you've stacked as much leather as you have into that, like there is no telling what's going to happen. I've had inlaid swells that have sat on the floor before I've taken them up to a show. They look perfect, absolutely perfect. I drive up to Wyoming with them and take them out of the saddle cover, and there's gaps everywhere. I'm like, I don't understand how this happened because it just sat for 2 weeks looking perfect. Uh, so it really is it's a process that's super difficult. And even with the way that I showed how to do the inlaid swell, like I'm still not guaranteeing that it's gonna be like, bam, this is perfect first try. Like it might take a couple tries to actually get it done because they are actually one of the more difficult things that you can do. But they are super rewarding and they look really cool. And like if you're building a showier piece, like it's 100% going to add that extra level that other saddles might not have. So yeah, they're cool.
okay. So maybe not as useful for like daily types. Like, are they more?
Honestly, like a even on like a ranchy rig, like you're still gonna I still think there's benefits to having an inlaid swell.
Okay.
Because I don't know, there's nothing there to interfere with anything. I mean, you'd probably have to be in a pretty big wreck for your swell cover and your where your seat and swell cover to meet. You'd have to be in a big wreck for that to become a problem. But I don't know, maybe it could.
It also saddles will collect more material than you're ever aware of, as far as like grass seeds, pine needles, dirt. And if you have that inlay, it doesn't collect near as much of that stuff.
Oh,
Um, I don't know if anybody's done a lot of repair work, but when you tear skirts off of a saddle, notoriously they're just full of stuff that just get
Yeah.
in there somehow. So that does play a role into that, which I really like.
Yeah, especially if you eliminate the handhole too, right? Like if you cut the handhole out of it plus do an inlaid swell, yeah, that's a good point. You're not going to have anything in there.
I
I'm just
wonder if it's beneficial for uh, play. Like I don't know what level you're on or anything like that, but maybe give Trevor some insight on like where you're at in the process of building saddles and how many you've done, and then like there's always stuff um, that comes up, but it also depends on like what level you're at.
Yeah. As you can tell, a little bit longer in the tooth. I'm getting close to retirement. I've been doing leather work for a lot of years, just not building saddles for a lot of years. I also hitch horsehair, and that's kind of my primary gig that I've done. Um, Braid quite a bit, but I've only built like maybe 7 or 8 saddles, and um, started years ago. Went out, spent a little time with Brad McClellan out in the basin out there, and um, spent a little time out to Capriola's, but certainly um, wanting to do more after I retire. I'm going to retire here in September, and so looking to do more. Videos have been really helpful. I've appreciated that. Covered a lot on there, and you made it a lot simpler, and I've been able to pick up a lot of tips and tricks, and hopefully can do a much better job. So yeah, so far as building saddles, I'm pretty beginner at that.
Okay, gotcha. Me and Derek were actually just talking about this right before everybody was hopping on. Um, we've got classes from Matt on like the full saddle build right now, but we don't have a class for me on this full saddle build. And with this event that we have coming up in Pendleton, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about that or not yet. I'm pretty sure we are.
well, you
We're
just
doing
did,
the
so whatever.
yeah, let's go. We're doing the me, Dusty, and Matt are doing a full saddle build up in Pendleton for a class. And with that coming up, it's really got me thinking about like how different our styles are. Even me and Matt have worked together for years, and our styles are so different. Like we don't do anything the same, whether it's from the direction that we stitched, the way that we cover a horn. There's nothing that we do the same. So that's something that me and Derek were talking about is getting saddle classes from me on the platform to give people another perspective on how the thing goes together, um and I think that would be extremely beneficial for the platform to have more perspectives from me. Maybe if Dusty was willing to, I think that'd be cool.
That's what I find really interesting about all this stuff. And I've really benefited over the years about going and seeing other people's shops because you get stuck in your way and then they are like doing it totally opposite. So I'm also like really intrigued on how Matt and how Trevor built compared to or like the way I do it. And I'm sure I'm going to look over and go, why in the world are you doing it that way? And then at other times I'm going to be like, oh, that's pretty nifty. I'm going to put that in my bag. So, Clay, I would uh, highly suggest like look at the videos. Like you said, you've seen some other shops and then pick and choose what works for you the best. And that's been great in my career.
Thanks, Dusty. I appreciate that. I've also been going to those workshops with the Colorado saddle makers and watching Shane Dieter, and pretty intriguing to watch how he goes about things too. He's quite a craftsman as well. So it's good advice. Thank you.
If you've been watching Dieter, then you pretty much know how I do things because that's the most similar during that plate rig class that he just did in Grand Junction. I was like, oh yeah, this is where I learned how to build plate rigs. This is exactly what I do. So no, he's awesome. He taught me a lot, and uh, it's hard to deviate from the ways that Shane's taught me. He told me one day. He said something to the effect of learn from the lazy saddle makers because then you'll learn the easy way to do it. And uh, man, he is not wrong. It's like there's harder ways to do things, and they pretty much accomplish the exact same thing. It's just harder, more nails, more stress. A good example of this is for doing a sweat on swell cover. The process we used to use was insane. It would take a good 6 to 8 hours to put on a sweat on swell cover, like a team roper or whatnot. And then Shane came to me and he's like, dude, I figured something out. And he showed me the way that Don Gonzalez is doing it. And that's the way that I use to this day. And it went from, like I said, 6 to 8 hours to put a swell cover on to, man, I can have one completely wrapped up in 45 minutes. And at the end of the day, it's the exact same thing. It's just a much easier way to get from point A to point B.
Well, I guess is that as you build saddles, is that always on your mind? Is okay, how do I not only do this better, but how can I be more efficient? Like, do you think about that often?
100%. I don't think there's a single saddle that I work on that I'm not like, okay, is this the best way that I could be doing this? Is there a more efficient? Is there a cleaner way that I could do this? Like, what can I do to make what I'm doing better at this time? And I actually talked to Dusty about this a while ago. I felt like I was kind of running out of things to improve on, which is an artist that is not a good feeling. It's like, okay, I can't be stagnant. I can't be happy where I'm at. Um, so I was talking to Dusty about that, and um, he helped me think about a different way to do skirts that I think is going to be amazing for my process and for the overall function and fit of the saddles. And I'm excited to get that rolling and get some prototypes made up. So yeah, 100%.
Trevor, so is that class in Pendleton? Is that a for sure then? That's a go?
As far as I know, it's
The class is a
100% a go.
go. Clay, you're in I can make sure to, if we don't already have information out, get that to you so you can, if that's something you're interested in, you can make sure you're
Yeah, I would
signed
be.
up. Okay.
Is that in November, if I remember right?
Yes, that'd be the 4th through the 7th, right, Trevor? And I don't know exact dates on the classes, but right in there that first week
Yep,
in
it's the
November.
first week in November. Yep,
November.
yep.
Yeah, I'd be interested in the information on that if you would.
We're going to be working right alongside with the student at the end of the class. You'll have a saddle to take home, and it's going to be a big fun ordeal. I think it'll be awesome.
For the life of me, I'm a member of Illume and have never bothered to go to one of these live events, and I just kind of wanted to be a fly on the wall and see what the hell's going
Oh,
on.
oh, perfect. Well, thank you for
Nice.
coming in. Tell us a little bit about some of the classes you've been in, and that'll maybe help us keep the conversation a little more relevant. You
Oh,
probably don't want to hear how I just mistreat all our instructors.
Yeah, you
no,
do.
you're fine. No, I am a leisure leather worker. So like this is my version of therapy in all ways, and I just watch classes randomly. And so for the life of me, I don't even remember what the hell I've taken and what I haven't, because
Okay.
it's kind of I watch it and I don't build it, and then I build it 2 weeks later without watching it again. So I don't even remember what I've taken and what I haven't, and it's not important to me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, that we love that feedback and they're helpful, I hope.
Oh, particularly so. Yes.
Good, good.
No, and especially how they are broken down, because it's and that's why I can do something 2 weeks later, is because it'll have gone step through step, and through some form of osmosis, I have learned something. And
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
that's the magic of the times we live in, where we can watch a video and suddenly our hands know what to do. So that's very cool.
I wouldn't say
Um,
they know what to do. I would say
well,
that
they think
they
they
think
have
they
a
do.
general direction to move in,
This is
and
true.
okay, okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
These we're working on getting these a little more structured, but I this is really an opportunity for you to reach out to the instructors. We have been having the instructor of the projects that released the month before. So for example, Trevor's classes came out in June. So here in July, we're talking about them. Next month, we're going to talk to JC. She had some classes that she did with a spur strap, can koozie, and a real simple knife sheath. Very they're more of a beginner class, but they're anyway. She'll be available. She's taught head stalls. When you say leisure leather, you're doing it for fun, but are there certain projects that you?
Basically, the things that you just mentioned that are
Oh,
taught next month. So, like a simple knife sheath, or
okay,
but my version of accomplishment is, hey, I bought a new tool. Let me make a sheath for it, or I have to organize my shop. Let me build a table for it. So that's the
awesome.
ad hoc basis.
Okay, well that's I know for me, I like building things that I'm going to use, right? So,
Yeah,
and what better reason than to go, oh, well, I guess I need that. So,
yeah.
well, we'd love to see it next month as well. If you have any questions about those classes, or you've been going through the platform and there's hey, I really wish there was this. We've gone real deep into saddle making. This conversation has all been saddle making. How did you find Illume?
I follow Aaron Heiser
Okay,
from Makers, and then I guess they mentioned it, and I'm kind of the guy where I like to go to a place for a thing, not physically, but like Illume was my it has all the things, and so like I can do a la carte what I want, and so I just got the membership, and I can do today. I can watch stuff and learn about whatever the hell I want to, and
perfect.
your volume of
That's
volume and quality of content got me in. So
excellent. Well, that we love to hear that, and that's that is kind of our thing is just being. We've got the magazine, we do the live events, and so you have the opportunity to do the full experience. But yeah, and like we've been doing a lot of work with Aaron and his live events. He's been going to different places. You're close to Makers, so
yeah.
that's a amazing resource down there to go take, if you're interested in live classes. I guess we haven't gone into much detail on the covering a horn, Trevor. Let's maybe look back at that class and talk about, I guess, that one in particular. We introduced working with rawhide. Are there a couple of tips you could maybe share there?
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that people have asked me on that, it's like a horn binder class. We do the whole horn. We bind it in rawhide. It's a pretty sharp horn by the time we're done. But another thing that people have asked me about is, well, what else can you bind it with? Um,
Hmm.
and for me, the list isn't extremely long. People are wondering about like chrome tan and stuff, and like personally, I would not do a chrome tan leather on there. I think it's too soft. It has too much ability to stretch and pull away and become ugly looking. But like Latigo, I think Latigo would look sharp. It'd be a little bit more of a pain to work with. That's crazy considering that rawhide is so difficult to work with by itself. But when it's tempered correctly, it's actually not too bad. But yeah, the list for me would be Latigo, skirting leather, or rawhide. Those would be the only three things that I'd ever bind a horn with. Um, but uh, I don't know. Do you guys got any
What
questions on the process or
I've just got
anything?
to, why would you bind a horn? And I'm total layman, but what is binding that horn? Is it just a looks thing, or is it add something as far as function?
Dusty can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I don't think it adds any strength to your horn. Um, I feel like it's a thing that's a trend and people like it because, well, it's rawhide. It's got to be tough. But my opinion is rawhide really isn't that tough. Um, for me, there's a reason we're trying to cover all of the rawhide on the tree, and that's because the more interaction that rawhide has with sunlight, the quicker it's going to break down, the more it's going to shrink, the worse off you are. So it's something that if you do have on a saddle, it's something that requires a lot of care so that it doesn't have problems down the road. Um, but then, like I said, you can get into the other horn binders with latigo or skirting leather, and they really do look sharp. They are gorgeous. So it's a aesthetic thing more than anything for me.
Let's see. Kevin just asked, what about using 8 9 ounce bison on saddles?
So for the horn wrap itself, yeah, I think that'd be a solid option. But for just the actual binder for the top, I feel like the bison is too soft. You'll end up having some issues. But for a horn wrap, yeah, bison's solid. It's super tough. It's got enough squish that it'd make a amazing horn wrap. I did a bison horn wrap on a very expensive saddle that I made because it looks really good, yet it's extremely strong at the same time. So bison's solid for horn wraps.
Good deal. I guess let's maybe just touch on a couple little tips from the process end while we've got you here. Whether that's the additional prep for the rawhide, or are there any other special considerations before you start that project to be successful, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that we talked about earlier when we were discussing seats is if the seat is too wet, it doesn't work nearly as good. And rawhide's the same way. If your rawhide's just sopping wet, um, it's gonna it's gonna be a nightmare to work with. Your stitches are gonna look crazy by the time you're done. You want that same temper that I talked about with the seat earlier, and that temper is more clay-like than uh than anything. You want it to where you can push on it and it'll stay. It doesn't rubber band back. It doesn't do anything funky. And one of the things when I'm sewing the rawhide, like when I'm actually to the step of sewing it, I want that rawhide dry enough and tempered enough that I can scratch it a little bit with my fingernail, but it's like kind of hard to scratch with the fingernail. So it's got like, it's set up pretty good. It's pretty solid by the time I actually sew it. Um, and that being said, when you're dealing with something that solid, when you're sewing it, when you're pulling your strings tight, you have got to pull hard, like really hard to try and get them to set in and look nice, or else they'll just sit on the top. Like if you just are sewing like you'd sew with just leather, your stitches will just sit on top, and that makes your stitches wear out fast, and no one wants that.
Let's talk a little bit about patterning because I know in that class I was bugging you about, and it does have a pattern, but we talked about how hard it is to really get a pattern for all, there's not one.
Yeah. The one horn pattern that works for everything. You will find that right next to my pet unicorn. Yeah, for sure. So patterning is, um, I don't do it the same way that I pattern anything else. The way that I pattern horns is I take a piece of leather, I cut the circle that's the top, and I'll cut lines down like a quarter of an inch so it'll like drop into where the neck of the horn is. And I have this piece of leather oversized. It is the crappiest leather I can find. It is stretchy, loose, cheesy leather. It's just as bad as leather as you can possibly find. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to get this top stuck down really good. And then with all that excess that we have at the bottom, I'm going to start forming it in and creating the wings and creating my pattern based on that. I have a I have a couple different horn patterns and they look insane. Like the the way that their shapes are. Like there's one that I have that comes in nice and straight, and the one side has this giant kick down to it, like a big old kick down. And the other side's just nice and straight. And for whatever reason, it works just so good because that's the way that the leather fit to the horn, right? Like trying to make your horn pattern symmetrical, all that stuff, it's just not worth it. It's not going to work out. Just make those wings whatever shape the horn tries to be, right? Um, but I have so many different horn patterns, and I have ones that I like to gravitate to. Like I said, the one with the big kick down straight on the other side. That one I tend to go towards a lot. Um, but yeah, horn patterning is fun. It's I don't know. It's like one of those things that I like to do. That's like it's a weird thing that I like to do, but I don't know. It's fun for me.
Cool.
Does that make any sense? Anybody got questions on that?
Seem to be okay. I did want to see if Dusty might be
It's
able
like
to
Clay's got a
yeah.
question.
Oh,
Yeah, just a quick question on that. Once you get a pattern set for, do you change it around tree by tree, or if you're ordering the same tree with the same horn, do you save those patterns over and utilize them again, or are you still patterning each horn?
It's definitely horn by horn basis. So like if those trees have the same horn, I'm just gonna run that pattern. But as soon as the horn changes at all, even if it's just tilted forward a little bit, yet it's still the same height and everything, like your patterns just aren't gonna work the same. Um, if a horn's got a lot of undercut to the bottom of it, like on the back side of it, like you're gonna have to change the pattern. So it's definitely a horn by horn thing. Yeah, the amount of horn patterns I have are pretty crazy, and none of them look the same. They're all crazy. None of them look like a sane person made them because they look like a toddler made them, but they work so stinking good for what they're for. So don't care what your horn wings look like. Just as long as there's not any like crazy shapes in them, like you don't have like a rectangle halfway through your wing or something. Like as long as they're smooth and they flow nice, it doesn't matter what they look like. It just matters that they fit.
Thank you.
I just wanted to see if Dusty might weigh in on just any other thoughts from the tree maker side of things, just because there do seem to be a variety of horns out there. He may be wrangling kids though.
Nope, I'm here. Yeah, uh, there's a lot of horns out there, and unfortunately, the number system within trees never correlates with um, horn makers, I guess. So I get a call and somebody will say, I want a number one or a number two. And I'm like, okay, you're going to have to send me a picture because I don't even know what this thing is. But generally, an 18, a DM8, a Keech, a YO, things like that are pretty popular. And you can make a pattern for those. Um, but yeah, there's a bazillion different horns in there. Patterns are typically the same, but they get pretty personalized really fast, it seems like. So yeah.
Oh, and that
Yeah,
was
for me even like the 18 versus the DM8, like yeah, they're pretty close. They work pretty good, but there is like just certain little things about them that, like, for me it's worth it just to make a different pattern for it, because it's just gonna, like, wrapping the wings is gonna be just a little easier, especially if you're like me and you like having the wings out of a little bit better leather that doesn't want to work with you as much. That's why that's one of the reasons that I like having like very horn specific patterns, is you can use a little bit more solid leather that doesn't have as much flex to it, and just going to be a little bit stronger in the wings.
we did hammer in the idea of using 7 nails on top of the
Yeah,
horn,
use
Trevor.
7 nails.
We sent that as a short on YouTube, and there were several interesting comments. But one that I found was kind of funny was, "Will 6 nails and one screw work?"
No, no, don't do screws. No screws in the top of your horn, please.
Okay,
For the love of saddle making, no screws in the top of your horn.
I
Yeah.
I don't know if they
Um,
were serious or not.
with your pattern, Trevor, I don't know if I can put anything on this thread, but one way I tackle metal horns is I make a cap and I have the neck come behind the horn itself, and then I use two rivets and rivet on my wings so they can be adjusted up and down. If that makes sense.
Oh,
So
cool.
you can take it to pretty much every horn and get pretty close. Like it's not perfect, but you can get pretty darn close with adjusting
Yeah.
those wings kind of how you need them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Derek, I don't know. I could share my pattern
Yeah,
with you
if
and you
if you
could
send that to me,
these
I'll
guys.
I'll
I don't.
I'll
Okay.
share it on the
Yep.
community. Yeah, that'd be
Yep.
awesome.
Real good.
Nice.
So everybody's able to get into the live community, okay, see the comments there. Okay, perfect. Um, great. I'll share that there. I'm gonna go ahead. If there's no other questions, we'll wrap this up. It's almost 7 o'clock.
I have
Oh,
one.
yeah, go for it.
How long does it take to remove the leather from a horn? Like if I buy a 30-year-old saddle and I want to take the leather off a horn, how long is that going to take?
Cut stitches and rip, 2 minutes.
So just rip stitches and pull.
Yep. Underneath the swell
It,
cover
it,
is gonna, it could fight you quite a lot if they put a lot of nails to hold the wings down. That
Mm-hmm.
could fight you quite a lot. Um, but if you're just wanting to pull the horn off and you don't want to do the swell cover, um,
So
yeah, I'd still just cut stitches, pull it off the best you can. Yeah, if the swell cover's already off, then.
all right.
Um,
I
but
would
I
ask if
would
you were trying
save
to get a
that.
pattern. Yeah, if you're trying to get a pattern off of it, take your time. If you're just ripping it
And
off, no time at all.
So I
Yeah.
have zero interest in making a saddle. I come across a lot of old ones and I make stuff out of the parts of broken ones. So like this is my tool belt for holding my hammer. And then the swell cover, I don't know what I'm going to do with not the swell cover, the horn cover. I don't know what I'm going to do with when I take it off, but
Gear
that's my
shift
next
knob.
project.
Gear shift knob for a truck.
That's kind of sort of what I was thinking actually for a tractor, but yes.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Sorry. I have no interest in making a saddle
Nope.
because I don't. My skill level is like down here, but I love taking shit apart and making new stuff. So
Okay. Well, and there is a repair and maintenance course where we do break down a saddle
yeah, I
that
might
that
look into
may,
that.
I mean, it was a 100-year-old saddle, so it may be different than what you come across, but it may give you some ideas.
Yeah. Excellent.
Perfect. Well, like I was saying, next month we'll have JC here. So fourth Wednesday, 6 p.m. Mountain. We'll be talking about some of her classes. That's can koozies, some spur straps she made. You can ask other questions. She has a cool head stall class and a bag class on the platform as well. Appreciate you guys coming out. I hope this was a good conversation for you. I learned a lot. It's always it's always cool to hang out with my buddy Trevor. Maybe we'll get
Yeah.
back to the studio and do a square skirt saddle. Sounded like
Something
Dusty'd give
punchy.
us sounded like Dusty'd give us a vote to do that. So we'll we'll talk to our production team. Anyway, have a good evening, everybody. And as always, if there's anything you guys need, please reach out and let us know. And leave some comments in the live community. I will share that pattern that Dusty sent.
So if anybody is on next time with JC, um, I would strongly suggest one question, and that is ask her what her nickname is from Trevor. If somebody could please ask that question, that would be great. Um, yeah, yeah.
Great. Well, that'll guarantee everybody comes back, Trevor. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's good. It's real
Okay.
good. So
Okay, I'm gonna sign us
yeah.
off. Thanks, you guys. Really appreciate it.
See you guys.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Night.